Today is Tuesday, September 28th, 2021, and it's 6 o'clock. First on our agenda is to call a meeting to order, which we'll do now. Then second is conflict of interest. Does anybody up here on the dais on the commission have any conflict of interest with any items on the agenda tonight? I've seen all. No, okay. Item number 3 is approval of the minutes. I have a motion and to the minutes. Started blinking. I said, is there?
But he's pushing the button.
If I take my finger off, it goes off.
Oh.
It has to be red right here for you.
I'm sorry,
I know,
it's
but
not working.
He's pushing the button.
It goes out.
Try it out.
It's not working either. Hers just goes red.
It's red when it's working.
No, but he's talking to.
See, yours-
Can you hear me now? It's backwards. All right, I make a motion, we accept the minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Does anybody have anything to add or ask or correct in the minutes?
No.
No? What'd you say?
I wasn't present, so would I abstain?
Just when we vote? Okay. Can we have a roll call?
Yes. Board Member Smith?
Here? Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Guerrero? You can only have, Mr. Smith, if you could turn yours off. Thank you.
Okay, there we go. Sorry. Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Muniz?
Here.
No. I need you to vote on the minutes, please. I need you on the microphone, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't in attendance.
So you're abstaining?
Yes, I was absent. I wasn't
Okay.
at the meeting.
Board Member Bennett?
I abstain.
Board Member Gordon?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes.
Thank you.
Our next item is postponements. We don't have any of those. The next item then is public participation. Is there anyone here who wants to speak about an item that is not on the agenda? If you're here to speak about an item on the agenda, we'd like you to wait until we get to that item. But if you have something else, you're welcome to come up now. Do I see someone in the back? Did you want to come up and say something?
I'm not sure if it was on your agenda or not. This is my first time being here, but I am aware of a problem in my neighborhood.
Okay, you want to come up to the microphone here and state your name?
Just before she comes over.
My name is Mary Bartelt.
Could you say that again?
Mary Bartelt.
Okay, Mary, and would you tell us about your problem?
I have been made aware that there is a transition house being considered in the neighborhood for women.
Where do you live?
On 1017 Tamarack Drive.
I don't think I know where that is. Would give me a general idea where it is in the city.
It's 1 block off Hickory Drive.
Okay. And this is a transition house. Is this from the Community of Hope?
No, the lady is, her name is Teresa Medina, is the owner of the home, and she's trying to make it into a transition home for 6 or 7 women who are being let out of prison, but she intends to have them secluded for 3 to 9 months, and that they will be allowed out for certain activities, but they will have no visitors, neighbors, friends allowed at the house. And I feel if they're already locked up and they're coming out and they still need 3 to 9 months of attention by some guardian that she claims will be living in the house, is not very good for the neighborhood.
So this isn't something that really applies to planning and zoning, but look, we have someone from the staff here who wants to say something.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, what is being referenced is a case that has been submitted in error. There's a case that currently came to us. It was a rezone request, but it needs to be a special use permit, and it is a transitional housing arrangement as described, and that's currently under review by staff and will be coming forward at some point in the future.
Thank you for that. Okay, so it will, because it involves being rezoned, it will come to this body, but it's not on the agenda for tonight. So we can only discuss things that are on the agenda.
All right.
You know, you can only talk about things that the public's been advised are going to be discussed. So
All right.
maybe you could give your contact information to this gentleman here, and they can let you know when it's going to come before us.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, if I
Yes.
may, certainly as the case is being prepared and will be brought forward as a special use permit request, letters will be sent out as required by code to the surrounding property owners within 500 feet of the subject property. So it sounds like you are within that threshold, that distance threshold, so you will be made aware. But I could certainly take your name and number and
And
contact.
there will be a sign on the property as well
Do you want it now?
with the information and the date. And okay, anyone else who has something they want to bring up before we go on to the items on the agenda? Okay, next is a consent agenda. We don't have anything on the consent agenda. And old business, we don't have anything on old business. So we'll move on to new business.
All right, I vote that we approve
Thank you. I'll give you a
the
call.
item that's under new business.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Item number 1, Grover Drive variance.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. And there's a presentation? Yes.
That's correct, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Vincent Benegas, interim planner for the record. I will be making the presentation this evening. The variance request brought before you this evening involves a property at 1505 Grover Drive. And the information that I'll be sharing with you is basically there are 2 separate variance-related issues for this property, and I'll highlight what those entail. The current conditions on the property, as indicated, 1505 Grover Drive, it's a single-family residence at present, has approximately 0.21 acres in size, just shy of a quarter acre, is R1A zoned, and the house that is on the property was constructed in 1958. One of the issues that will be discussed involves an existing carport that is attached to the house. There was no record of a variance or a building permit for that carport, and this issue came to light as the applicant was seeking information and permission for an addition in the back of the unit, which I'll also touch on. But in order to clean up the issue of the carport, staff advised him to bring that matter as a separate variance request, and hence it is being discussed this evening. The property was purchased approximately 11 years ago by the applicant, and the carport was in place at that time as he purchased. So we aren't very sure as to when it was originally constructed, but nonetheless, it's been around for a good while. This is a zoning map of the area. Again, 1505 Grover Drive is this property here, outlined in red. Grover Drive intersects Roberts Drive, which then intersects Avenue of the Mesilla. So the property is generally south of Avenue of the Mesilla. And you can see, based on this zoning map, that you do have various zoning districts, everything from commercial to some office to residential in a multi-family type arrangement. So a plethora of zones in the area, but the enclave of single-family zones, R1A district, is where the subject property is located at present. Aerial map showing the property, the same property. Again, the enclave is primarily single-family detached housing, and surrounding it, commercial and other types of multifamily as well. Okay, regarding the two requests, we have the existing carport, as I mentioned. I will be showing you a site plan that will illustrate the deviation of the required setback, but in this case, we're looking for a 14-foot 7-inch variance to the required 25-foot front yard setback to specifically carports and garages, and also a proposed addition in back of the house that will require at maximum a 7-foot 4-inch variance to the required 20-foot rear yard setback. The applicant's justification in seeking these variances are as follows. For one, the carport, one of the options that early on in our discussion that I had with the applicant was to potentially be required to remove the carport. And obviously, that was just a scenario, worst case. That would cause some undue financial hardship for the applicant, especially since it would take away some valuable funding for the addition that he very much needs at this present time. Also, the impact to the property and to the neighborhood has already been realized. Again, the carport has been in existence for a number of years. And to date, the applicant nor staff, we've not received any negative comment or input regarding that structure. In terms of the rear yard setback, again, the impact of variance diminishes along the width of the proposed addition and or the width of the required 20-foot rear yard setback. So worst case scenario, at a point that I'll show you in a minute, it is the full 7-foot 4-inch deviation, and it necks down or narrows down, and the impact is lessened. And also the applicant has voiced some desire to retain some existing vegetation, trees, et cetera, and to preserve as much air and light on the property in context to what is existing to date in terms of his house, how it's arranged, and in order to facilitate the enjoyment of the property by his family. So this is the site plan in question. You have Grover Drive off to the left side here. The existing carport in question is located in this vicinity. The existing house is here with an existing covered porch, and this is the proposed addition. So what we are talking about this evening is this proposed addition and this existing carport. So you can see that from the property line in, if we follow what the current code says of 25 feet, that's where we come across the need for a 14-foot, I rounded up, 7-inch variance. And then in the proposed addition, they've highlighted for you the extent of encroachment for the 20-foot rear yard setback. This line here represents that setback. And so worst case, right at this juncture is the 7-foot, 6-inch, or 4-inch actually is what it calculates to, deviation that's needed for the variance. And then it necks down or diminishes in terms of impact to that rear yard setback. Here's some photos of what we are talking about in terms of the carport. I wanted to illustrate how minimal, in my opinion, the impact is for the carport. The applicant has shared with us these photos showing how it exists at present, and this frontal view is off of our Google Maps and kind of shows the carport relative to the structure. And there are other carports in the area, and if you weren't aware of the encroachment, I don't know if you would even realize that there was an issue at hand. In terms of analysis, staff did not find any health, safety, or welfare-related issues. The rear setback, again, is only for part of the structure. It diminishes as you go north along the property line or the rear setback line. And the carport variance is a need that is not a result of the applicant. Again, they purchased the property as it stands, as shown in those photos. And this request is following staff's request to clean up the setback issue. Normally, when we see permits and or variance requests come before us, if we find anything else on the property, we seek that those items that may be in violation of current code be cleaned up as well. And this is an instance of that. And again, the carport has been in existence for several years. To the best of my knowledge and certainly in his knowledge and living there for a number of years, he's not received any negative feedback regarding that structure. Notice was sent to surrounding property owners. As of today, I received one general inquiry, and they just were interested in what the carport-related matter referred to. And once they found out that there would be no increase in size or modification of that structure, it is what it is, and that's how it was intended to stay. They had absolutely no problem with that. So staff recommendation on this is basically conditional approval. I think I put approval in the staff report, and I'll point out what that condition is. It's kind of a given, but nonetheless, the subject property is just shy of a 1/4 acre, R18 zoned, and has a single-family residence, as I've illustrated. The carport doesn't meet the sections that are identified on the presentation slide here. This refers to the 25-foot requirement. Even though in this case the impact is very minimal, as I illustrated, we have to address it. And again, it's a cleanup matter that staff has pushed on the property owner. And this request for the carport and the addition are the minimum necessary for relief of the applicant's stated objectives of enhancing his property and doing the addition to accommodate an increase in family size that they've realized very recently. And although monetary considerations aren't specifically authorized, they are authorized when seeking alternatives may cause considerable hardship, monetary hardship to an applicant if strict application of the zoning code is applied. And in this case, again, if the carport is deemed to be removed, then there's cost to that, and that takes away funding for the addition that's much needed. If, one option was to build up, there's additional costs associated with that wasn't anticipated. And then worst case scenario, someone could say, well, maybe you need to look at another property. That would be even greater impact to the family. So in that sense, the monetary consideration is allowed by you for consideration of this case. If approved, the applicant, this is where the staff condition comes in. The applicant will have to submit building permits, that's a given, but it'll also have to submit a building permit for the carport, and that's to ensure that our inspectors go out and just see how it was constructed, make sure everything's up to code, building code in that sense. So your options this evening, Commissioners, is to vote yes and approve the variances as presented. You may vote no and deny them. Just know that the findings that have been presented are in favor of the request, so you'll have to come up with findings on your own. You could certainly split the variances and vote on one, vote in favor of one and not on the other. That's certainly your prerogative. You can vote yes with conditions or vote to table. And that, Madam Chair, concludes staff's presentation. Mr. Madrid is in attendance if you'd like to hear from him.
Mr. Madrid, do you want to say anything? You have to come up here, sorry. And I have to swear you in, so would you state your name?
Richard Madrid.
Do you swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
So I just wanted to touch on what Mr. Benegas here did discuss, and that was about the carport for one. I talked to a neighbor across the street who came in I was asking about this yard sign that was in my front yard that I picked up. And he's been living there since 1995, and the carport was there when he got there. So it's been there for almost, over a couple of decades now. So that is, in fact, true. It's been there for, I don't even know how long it was before that, so it has been there a while. And it's made out of steel. Everything is steel beams. There's no wood in it. Everything is steel. So to deconstruct that would be quite pricey. It would be a very big hardship on what we're trying to accomplish here. And with the addition in the back, we're not trying to make this into a big old mansion or anything. We're just trying to provide enough room for a level of comfort for each of the family members that you see in front of you. I also have a daughter that's up in Colorado she's playing softball in college, and she comes down in the winter and in the summer. So there's another one. My son's currently at Las Cruces High School football practice, so there's still two more that aren't here. And we're just trying to accommodate there's still going to be kids that would be sharing rooms, but we're trying to accommodate space for, their studies, for privacy, for things of that nature. So, that's what we're trying to accomplish here. I'm trying to do everything right. With the carport, I did not know that it was out of, code. And it was brought to my attention by Mr. Benegas. So I just want to make sure that everything's right. And this helps us in the future if we want to sell it or anything. Everything's permitted, the variances are there. But that's what we're trying to accomplish here, is just trying to get everything done correctly and make sure everything's on record and we can move forward.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
So next we go to the commission. Any commissioner have something they want to say about this? I guess we don't have any complaints about it. So if nobody wants to say anything, and there's nobody else here from the public, right, who wants to speak about this? Okay, then we'll go to a vote.
Board Member Smith?
I vote yes for approval based on staff recommendation and also the minimal impact on the neighborhood character.
Board Member Guerrero?
Yeah, I vote yes based on staff recommendations and site visit as well.
Board Member Muniz?
I vote yes, along with the conditions of getting the proper permits when it's been built.
Board Member Bennett?
I vote yes based on staff recommendation, site survey. And that's it.
Board Member Gordon?
I vote yes based on my site visit, staff recommendations. I definitely think this will have no impact. That carport has been there forever, and I really do think it's a good idea just to clean it up. You'll have a permit, and there'll be no problems in the future. So good luck to you and your family.
Chairperson Thomas.
I vote yes based on staff presentation and site visit and Mr. Madrid's comments. Oh, it passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-0. Next item is a discussion. Only a couple. Thank you. Enjoy your addition, and thank you for coming. Next item is discussion. Only 2 of us were able to go to the joint meeting with the council on realized Las Cruces, which is about changing in the land development code as a result of Elevate Las Cruces, which most of us up here worked on. So David Weir is going to give us an overview of what's in that. It's going to be very important because it's going to be quite different when things come to P&Z based on these changes in the land development code. So I ask if we could just have a little bit of an overview so we can start getting ready for what's going to be quite different in the future.
Good evening. Again, David Weir with the Community Development Department. Just wanted to introduce the Diagnostic Report. As you recall, the city has retained Freeze and Nichols to prepare an update to the Land Development Code, and basically that's one of the major steps to implement Elevate Las Cruces and the policies in the future development program. That project's going to entail 3 phases. The first is the code diagnostics. The next one is actually writing the update to the code. And then the third is refining that and adopting those. And those elements are the zoning code, the sign code, the subdivision code, and the zoning map. And so the first deliverable that Freeze Nichols put together in their contract with the city was to do a diagnostic report. And that now has been completed. And as Madam Chair said, there was a presentation by Freeze and Nichols to the City Council and the P&Z members that were able to make it that provided an overview of that. In your packets for this evening's meeting, their presentation was provided as a PowerPoint, and you also got a copy of the diagnostic report itself. As we've already stated, the diagnostic report is to help the update to those codes, to implement the policies and actions that were pointed out in Elevate Las Cruces. It was also intended to provide gaps to the existing codes and issues that have taken place that you as a commission often see and have to, I guess you would say, arbitrate that as you have development cases before you. And so it was kind of a unifying report that it gave you an opportunity to see what issues are, what things aren't currently being addressed that were proposed in Elevate Las Cruces. And then it also provided some strategies that other communities have used to address similar issues. So those were not necessarily recommendations of what the city of Las Cruces should do, but also just basically to get you to think that there are other alternatives and maybe different ways to approach land use planning and development that Las Cruces hasn't done before. And so if you look at it through that lens, it's really kind of primes the pump for what's to come next with the development of the land use code itself. And it also provides an initial roadmap as to how we would go about updating the code. And then keep in mind that it's an iterative process. We intend to bring this back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council on a regular basis as different portions of the development code are provided. We've also made outreach to various people, we call them design professionals, the civil engineers, the surveyors, the developers, builders, et cetera, that actually use the code on a regular basis to get their input. And so there'll be kind of an iterative process as we go forward with that. Even though the consultants have completed this diagnostic report, as I said, since it is, we want to continue to have feedback and be able to update these codes in a manner that's most beneficial to the city. If the commission. If you see something that you want further explored or you think needs to be explored more, please let staff know, and we'll present that to Freeze Nichols and give them an opportunity to address that as we continue to go forward. They have already put together their administrative section that kind of outlines state statutes regarding to planning and zoning and subdivision. There are also the responsibilities of City Council and Planning and Zoning Commission. So that's currently under a staff review, or what we call peer review. And so probably the next time that we have actual code for you to look at, that will be one of the sections. They're now starting to work on the subdivision code and the amendments that would take place for that. And some of the items, the diagnostic report actually is organized, and it talks about the major impacts of what's taking place. So I think it's a good time, since the first deliverable was this diagnostic report. By having it on your agenda tonight, you have another opportunity to make any additional comments you have or ask any questions of staff of how the process is going forward. So with that, I'd be happy to address any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Weir. Comments or questions from commissioners?
I just want to ask David a question. When will we be able to participate in actually to discuss the things that we want to do? Are we going to do this after the fact, or we will have a chance to do it before or during? Or are we going to have like workshops or meetings like we did when we did the Elevate Las Cruces?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Gordon, it's a little bit different process, because you've already you've recommended and City Council's adopted Elevate Las Cruces that provided that policy direction. And so now we're actually in the technical writing of the ordinances and laws that will be impacted. And so as we go forward with these drafts, there'll be periods where we'll ask for a work session with you. The initial meeting was a joint one between City Council and the Planning and Zoning Commission. There's appeared to be some timing conflicts like this, so what staff would like to propose is that we have a meeting separate with you, and we could have it at the same time. If you had a light agenda like tonight, we could discuss options, drafts of the codes that are being brought forward as a part of your meeting, or your schedule that you adopt every year has a work session scheduled the second Tuesday of the month. And so that's another opportunity that we could bring what's being drafted and put forward together. And that's something that staff would work with the commission. As we go forward with this, there will be other open houses and forums that the commission, that would be similar to what you'd experienced with Elevate Las Cruces when we had the larger plans available to the public. There is a website, Realize Las Cruces, that has I guess you would call it a virtual open house, in which you can leave comments on there, and you can also see what the greater public has posted and left on that. If you open the PowerPoint that Freeze Nichols provided, they have a whole slide on that web page and what the virtual open house looks like, and the opportunity to comment on that.
Because what will happen is that that's like the first stage basically has been done, and we were at the meeting. Commissioner Thomas and myself were both at that meeting, and we listened to the presentation, and it was very just in general, and they just touched upon the basic administrative facts. But when it comes time to do the nitty-gritty, getting into the codes and changing the old archaic zoning laws and whatever they're going to do, a lot of these things will come to us in the future, and it would be nice if we could have some input as to things that concern us that we've had problems with in the past, that we could probably not have to get involved with again if they can straighten out some of these problems. So apparently what you're saying, if I understand, is that they're going to do all this, and then we're going to have a chance to just comment on it?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Gordon, what the work program they've laid out is that they will draft those various sections of the code, and they'll be brought for you. Oftentimes these projects work where a consultant's hired, they'll draft everything and just hand you a product at the end. The intent is to break this down into small segments and it to be an iterative process. One, staff sees what the consultant has put together. some of the design professionals, land use attorneys, et cetera, will have an opportunity to look at it, and then we'll bring that section to the commission and council and inform you of what's taking place. And so you'll have an opportunity as each one of those sections come forward, if there's something that, yes, we agree with the way you're going forward, or that doesn't quite address the issues you'll have an opportunity to do that as each section comes in, and not where you'll have to read all of these ordinances at the very end.
But then how do you know, after they bring you these things and you make your comments and you have some things that might be relative or germane, that you make these comments and they'll go back and then they're going to, will they then change the document and then bring it back to us with these changes? I mean, how do we know that what we're going to say has any impact?
Well, I think, as you all know, you play a very important role in this process. If you're not happy with the amendments that they make, you won't make a positive recommendation to City Council to adopt them. But also think the Diagnostic Report, I think they reached out to all of you and gave you an opportunity to share with them issues that you've experienced as a commission, and so they've pointed that out. And then there will be an opportunity as they actually draft them, so you as a commission will have the ability to say, like I said, this isn't quite right, we'd like more look into that. And the way you characterize it, yes, if they get direction from you that this section needs to be changed, they will again work on it and have that take place. So you probably will see several red line additions of the draft plans as they go forward.
I mean, I think the perfect example, basically what happened a few weeks ago or a month or so ago, maybe it's been 2 months on that Dunn property, where I don't know whether the commission or all my fellow commissioners are aware of the fact that the last or maybe 2 meetings ago, City Council reversed our decision on approving that property. They turned the petitioner down. They would not allow it. Mm-hmm. And we were of the opinion, with the information that we had, that we thought that it would be not right to go ahead and not grant. We thought it would be right to grant the waiver based on the information. Unfortunately, I think the gentleman who gave the presentation that night to City Council did a very lousy job, to put it bluntly. I think with the information that they gave him, it was not the same information that we heard and the comments that we made when we granted the waiver. So something like that is something that we want to look at in the future, because it's going to come up again. You're not going to have 600 feet of road, and then you're going to have 1,000 feet of gravel, and you're going to have another 600 feet of road, and then 2,000 feet of gravel, and then another 300 feet of road. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, something has to be done to prevent these type of things again, because we're going to vote yes, and City Council is going to vote no. And we're going to go back and forth. And I feel sorry for the people who are going to put these petitions in, because I don't know what they think they're going to have as a result. Those type of things, I'd like to be in a position we can make some comments as to have some reasonable. I'm just picking out one particular item. I'm sure my fellow commissioners have other thoughts. But this is one thing that has always bothered me, and you know that.
Commissioner Gordon, I think those are very good comments, and that particular issue was identified in the diagnostic, and also staff discussed a lot of the issues that presented themselves from the 86 annexation of the East Mesa. And so it's really a good opportunity, or I'm glad you brought that comment up, because the first section that they're dealing with is the subdivision code, and the street standards are where you actually implement, and the way we treat those waivers or different standards for street construction can be addressed in that. And then if you recall, Elevate Las Cruces has a large section on recommendations of urban street types, suburban street types, and rural street types. And I think that is one avenue to address the issue, but it's illustrative of this entire process. Elevate Las Cruces provided the opportunity of, this is the vision, this is what type of development we want to take place. You have a whole future development program or map going forward. These development codes are how we actually get to that vision. And so, and as I noted earlier, the diagnostics was to call out those gaps and issues that you've been facing and provide strategies to go forward. And so we now have that roadmap, and they can start addressing those as we draft the code. So we know that's an issue. We know there's going to be a discussion about non-conforming uses. We know there's discussion about mixed land use, ways to encourage affordable housing and providing missing middle housing products, updating the way that we treat storm drainage and infrastructure. And so those all have been identified. They also, you have Elevate Las Cruces, and so now you have a way to go forward and draft the update of these ordinances. So the example you provide is exactly the way this is to work, is you know that there's an issue anytime somebody asks for a street waiver because of an area that's annexed and has below standard streets. Your current codes, you're not happy with the process and venue you have to try to address those. With this update, you have an ability to try other methods or to treat it in a different manner. So I think those are all key, and it was a good example.
Because, I mean, that, you know, these are just this is just one particular item.
Mm-hmm.
When they do present the next portion of what their job is, we're going to basically have to go through item by item and see if we have any issues of what they're suggesting changing as to where we think it might be a little different, but that's fine, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad as long we're going to have some point to be able to make our comments and at least whether or not they want to do it or they don't want to do it, and when it comes time to pass it on to City Council, we can then again make our comments and see what they have to say. All right.
Anyone else? No? Okay, I have a few things to say. As David knows, I sent 9 pages of comments, so I'll only hit a couple highlights. So one of my concerns was at a couple places, and I'm just sharing, so I want to share them with the rest of the commission. So these are sort of my major concerns. One of them was that at one place they talked about, for example, the water conservation plan hasn't been implemented. So we have a lot of plans and things floating around out there that the plan's been approved, but it's never been codified, so then it doesn't have to be followed. So I ask, as they're doing this, if we could get a list of plans that, you know, that have been passed, but they've never been as ordinances, some of them, but they've never been put into the code, so they've never been codified. And so that's a big part that needs to be cleaned up, and so I asked for that. They talked at some point about roadway retrofits, and so of course I brought up Roadrunner Parkway again because it's such a dangerous street, and I don't know, are there other streets that 3 people have been killed on? I don't know if that or not, but I think my understanding of this approach is that it's going to apply mostly to new development, and so I don't know how much we're going to see on, you know, existing suburban development. But, I'm still going to keep pitching for Roadrunners. Then I'm really interested in this cross-access thing in a commercial area. So too often, like on especially El Paseo, you have a little commercial area, and then in order to go to the next one, you have to go out on El Paseo. So this just causes all kinds of traffic. It makes the street much more dangerous, and I think that one of those intersections along there is one of the most dangerous in the city. And so, there's a new Village Inn area on South Valley, and there's an existing little commercial area on the corner, and they didn't connect it when they, so I ended up at the pet food place, and then I had to go out and around and to get into the next place. And so I really think that's dangerous. And at one point when we were working on El Paseo, there were people here from the Federal Highway Department, and they looked at El Paseo and they said, what are all those curb cuts? Well, how come you can't make it from one area to the next? You have to go out on the road all the time, so that's a major concern of mine. Let's see. Oh, and then, this came mostly from the League of Women Voters, this idea of all-electric subdivisions and what the city has adopted so far in terms of the International Energy Conservation Code. So I think this is a part we need to watch pretty carefully. I think Albuquerque and Santa Fe have adopted something different, and do you know? And then I don't know what the state's doing with updating it. So, and I know that the mayor suggested that at some point that, you know, we could try to provide incentives for electric subdivisions by, you know, letting them move to the front of the line or whatever kinds of incentives. So if you're not familiar with this area, these are these new heat pumps that you don't have to run stuff in the ground. You can just, they use the air, and they're a little pricey to put in, but the cost is coming down, but it's much, much cheaper for the homeowner, and of course, good for the environment. So this would be subdivisions that did not have gas lines, but were all electric. So, and I think that's pretty much it, except that, David, could you just speak a little bit about, and I keep trying to understand this, how you have land use code and also place types and form-based, you know, how do they work together? Because we have land use code now, and we're going to add form-based code, and I'm not quite sure how it's going to work.
Madam Chair, first I want to encourage all the planning and zoning commissioners, if you have specific comments similar to Chair Thomas, please provide those to staff, and we'll get them to Freeze Nichols as soon as we got Ms. Thomas's comments. We provided them to her, so I encourage you all to do that if there's something in particular you have an issue. In regards to what we currently now have is zoning districts, and we do have certain, we call them urban design features, very basic. You have the structures, you have basic architectural, you have parking requirements, landscaping, setbacks, etc. Form-based codes are, there's more direction on what the lots, how they should be laid out, how the buildings should interact with one another, what type of street type they make. And so those both can be accommodated in your land use codes. And so that's the direction that we've gone with direction from Elevate Las Cruces. I'm going to get real techy and wonky on you. A lot of people call what we're proposing a hybrid code. You keep certain basic tenets of zoning districts, but you put a much more emphasis on what the built environment looks like. There's more direction on where parking should be oriented on a lot, how buildings should interface with the public right-of-way, streets, and drainage. And then there's less emphasis, more flexibility with the land uses. That if you were to take a real critical look at a very structured zoning district, is you can only have single-family housing in one area, you can only have multifamily in another, you can only have commercial, you can only have institutional, churches and schools in one area, and in manufacturing in another. Form-based codes are, again, much more flexible. They encourage the mixed uses, they encourage the density. There's less emphasis on that use and more on what are the real impacts. How does the street network work? How does this visually look? Are you creating a place as opposed to trying to protect one use from another? And so that's what we're trying to achieve with this update. And that's, Elevate had a big emphasis on that. That's where the place types and then the mixed use overlays came in to try to take where we're at today, give us a path to get there going forward and to accommodate it. So the city has put their toe in that in a couple places. The downtown, I would consider a form-based code. The University District has form-based elements. Those are the two primary. Some would say the Alameda Depot overlay encourages that. And so my guess is the Alameda Depot is probably what you'll see as a first iteration as the land use code comes forward.
And I guess I would say that form-based codes support a more walkable and bike-friendly and, you know, that kind of environment.
Right.
But my understanding is that this will apply mostly to new development, new subdivision. You can't go back to what exists on the east side and change it. You're not going to be able to put in parkways or make the blocks shorter or not do all the cul-de-sacs. It's just going to stay the way it is. But the newer development will look more like what we're talking about.
I think the opportunities for that are, you'll see the transformation faster in the new developments. I don't think it'll necessarily prohibit that, because one of the things that Elevate really promotes is complete and safe streets. And so there may be areas of town where we have more right-of-way than we actually need, and by constructing that, and so that might be some opportunities to retrofit the streets. If we create those mixed-use overlays, it would provide opportunity for housing and services and commercial to interact. But definitely that will take a lot longer period of time than that you'll see in the new developments that come forward.
Are you aware of what Albuquerque did with coal? And I can't remember what the other one, coal's the one that goes, lead is the other one.
Okay.
And, you know, and it was total vehicle not oriented. They put in parkways and trees and bike lanes and just totally transformed those streets. And I don't know how costly it was, but it certainly was beautiful when they got done, and made it more like, you know, the main street of the neighborhood instead of just something with these cars whizzing by. So I think going forward, it'd be nice if we could see some examples like that, so that we have visuals of it, because we don't have a lot of visuals of that kind of thing around here. The other area I think we need to be careful about is housing. You know, it's this missing middle thing we talk about. I won't have my numbers exactly right, but say a decade or two ago, 20-30% of housing that was being built was missing middle. It was something that somebody could move out of an apartment into and be able to afford for their first house, or, you know, and now it's something like 7% of all buildings. So people just are stuck in these apartments and, you know, maybe supportive housing, and they can't get out because there's nothing, you know, they can't afford $300,000-$400,000. So there's nothing there in the middle, and the more we can do to make that possible, the better, you know. And like I've told you, Oregon passed a state law that accessory dwelling units could be built on any single family lot. So it can be a garage conversion or apartment above a garage or a separate building. So it's happening all over the country. They're really pushing it in Portland to deal with this missing middle problem and people that need housing and can't afford the high prices. So that's something else I like to make sure we follow. Okay, what's next on our agenda? Did I lose my agenda?
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, I've been
Commissioner Muniz?
watching a program that one of my neighbors told me about. It's on YouTube, and it's showing different cities throughout the United States that have fallen apart through their redevelopment. And 99% of them failed in land use. And I don't want to see that happen here. Cities aren't able to take care. In other words, they built in one area large, huge, low-income apartments that deteriorated. Cars are parked on sidewalks. They didn't have enough parking or carports. Weeds are growing on city property. Trash cans aren't large enough. There's trash everywhere. They've just become terrible. They mix use. They've had the business below the low-income housing, and now those businesses are empty. But you see a liquor store or a dollar store. That's about all you see. It's like people that are suffering each day, unemployment and the cost of living are being taken advantage of. The cities, and all the cities I've seen on their property, weeds are as tall as we are. The city's even behind on keeping up with things. And I want to see our city rise, but I also want to make the comment, we need to take care of what we have. Right now, people, citizens are talking about El Paseo, the homeless, broken windows, human feces on sidewalks. This is happening. So we want to rise and make our city livable and wonderful, but we need to take care of what we have, and that should be part of the plan. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, David can comment on this too, but from what I understand, this land development code would make it easier for us to do things in the infill areas where not big blocks of affordable housing, but where there's an empty lot, a duplex or a courtyard, or interspersed different levels of income, and that then would support better commercial on El Paseo, because you have to have more density to have good commercial.
And it's not only El Paseo. I think that I don't know, codes has to start doing their job. We can build, the contractors can come here and build a nice apartment, and then it's sold later, and you get a slumlord. They don't even live here. And we need to put this all in focus. This is part of our city growing and becoming a better city. We've had shootings on Telshore and all those apartments. Where are those landlords? What does the cities do? Why are they allowing weeds to grow? You know, there's codes, there's things that we need for our city to grow. We need more policemen. You know, it's more than just having a contractor build some low-income housing or new housing or a strip center and then they sit empty. So to me, it's a full picture that we have to look at to make our city grow and look good and attract nice businesses. In fact, I'll say something nice. I'm so happy Burlington Coat Company's coming. And that's a big positive, you know. And that's it. I just, we need more to the picture than changing a zone. We have to be careful on our zone changing.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Moniz, I think you highlight how complex communities are. And the land development code is just one element of managing a city. A lot of the items that you talked about, you have covered in your Elevate Las Cruces. But there are other programs and regulations that will have to be looked at also. And I can tell you that the City Council has adopted a strategic plan, and probably 85 to 90% of that is policies directly from Elevate Las Cruces. So there's a concerted effort to implement not just the land use regulations, but look at those other areas that contribute to what you want to see in the community. So, and I can tell you other discussions with departments we had, they're working very hard on meeting that vision that you all heavily contributed to and City Council adopted. So very apropos comments.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, next is commission commentary. David, can you stay up there because I have sorry. So Jake Redfern called me today, so you probably know what that's about. It has to do with the new dispensaries that are coming into town, and evidently some people had already rented buildings or bought buildings, and they started to do the build out, and then the city passed the ordinances, and it says they can't be closer than 300 feet between them and another dispensary. And The thing is, in order to get the license from the state, everything has to be totally built out, ready to go, all furniture. So they've been racing to do all this, and now there are maybe half dozen that are caught in this limbo. And so he wanted to know, those people are probably going to come here and ask for a variance and say, you know, we didn't know, we were trying to meet the state requirements, and then the city did something that now is putting us in a place where we can't do what we needed to do. So I just wanted to bring it up. I don't know if at the next meeting you want to talk about it more, or...
Madam Chair, I think I can provide a real high level. As you are aware, having had to make a recommendation on the cannabis land use requirements, it's been a moving target because the states just now, and they haven't totally finished their rules, and so we've tried to address that from a land use and a zoning perspective the best we can. One of the ways that we tried to address the exact situation you talk about is to allow a special use permit for those dispensaries or those cannabis uses that are located closer than the 300 feet. And so a special use permit is more, it's not as rigidly, the requirements are less than you have for a variance where you have to have a hardship. And so by being a special use permit, it actually gives more flexibility and allows those business people an opportunity to justify that they're not creating a health, safety, or welfare type of issue, or that there's limited spaces for them to go. So there is a recourse or a process they can go through and still use those steps, but there is a requirement that they come to this Planning and Zoning Commission to get those approvals. It's not something that has to go to City Council like a zone change. So it would come to you. If you approved it, they would be able to go in those locations. And so that's...
Okay, good to know. Jake doesn't think there are more than maybe half dozen.
Okay.
It's not a lot, but it's probably going to come.
Why would anybody open a store less than 300 feet from your competitor?
I don't know, but when I had economics in high school, they said if you have an ice cream stand on the beach, they end up being right next to one another. But
I mean, is that the same?
I thought Wendy's just waited until McDonald's built something, and then they built something across the street.
Yeah, but it's not. It's sort of the same thing. I mean, it's almost, I can understand. For example, you have in an intersection, you got Starbucks on 3 corners. But, you know, that's fine. If somebody wants to do that, they want to come back to us, we'll discuss it, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. I think the logic behind it and going forward was that if there were too much concentration or use, that it may have other impacts on some other uses. And so it was, again, to make it blend in to the neighborhoods were some of the thoughts.
Okay, any other commissioner comments? Any staff announcements?
Madam Chair and Commission, I think you've already touched on it. On the 20th of September, the City Council approved the East Lowen Development Plan, and so now that's officially in policy. They directed staff to start looking at the implementation, and that would be a modification to the PUD of the property to develop basically new zoning regulations, and the emphasis was on form-based neighborhood, so addressing what you've talked about this evening, and also to start doing some of the preliminary engineering studies for the development of that property as the cleanup of it takes place. And then, as you noted earlier in our discussion, at their September 7th meeting, City Council adopted the cannabis zoning regulations taking place. And I had initially forgotten this, but they also acted on that variance request on Aldrich and Dunn, and they did not approve it. So the developer will either have to come in with another proposal on that or actually do the street improvements that are required by the subdivision code. And so those are 3 actions that you made recommendations on by City Council.
So I wasn't able to come to the meeting because my husband had a health thing and I had to go with him. I really hope the city in East Lowman keeps control of that. When you look at the examples they gave, they all took 20 years, except for the Holiday one in Colorado. In that case, the city kept control of it, and they just asked for RFPs from builders in terms of who wants to do this part and who wants to do that part. And so all of the development started at the same time, and they were able to get it done in like 11, 12 years. So I wasn't, as I said, I wasn't able to come, so I couldn't make that comment, but I'll make it now.
Madam Chair, I believe someone did comment on that, and that was the third recommendation was for the city to decide how they would manage that property.
Right.
And come up with a format on that. And so I would say that concept is the least fleshed out by the city, but the discussions have already started in regards to it.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to go home.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, we're
Aye.
adjourned. It's 7:06 by my watch.